what it is. So today I thought a little different segment on today's channel. So like a lot of people, I've always been into these, I guess you could call them OBS Ford trucks, which is, OBS they really refer to is 92 to 97. I consider it to go back all the way to 80 because 80 is about when Ford started with the box body style truck. They called it a bullnose, which was from 80 to, I believe, 85. Then 86 to 91 is considered a brick nose. They call 92 to 97 OBS, or some guys call it aero front end, whatever you want to call it. So I get a lot of guys ask me because I own a lot of these trucks. This one here happens to be one that I started putting together a couple years ago, and I just stopped fooling with it. But I get a lot of guys ask me, what do I look for when I buy one of these trucks? Well, we're on the East Coast. So rust is our biggest enemy on these trucks. And it's pretty much the biggest enemy on all of them, pretty much across the country. But East Coast, you're in the rust belt. So let's go over a few things that I find that are very common, that I'm just going to go over the basic key stuff that you need to pay attention to when you buy one of these trucks. So the first thing you want to look at is, obviously you want to get under it. Obviously you want to drive it, make sure the motor runs good, trans good. That's all normal stuff that us guys and people buying old cars look for anyway. But the things you need to look for on these trucks, right here. This is the spring and shock tower. They rot out really bad, especially on 92 to 97 150s and Broncos. These things rot out notoriously. If you go back a couple videos of mine in Project Cheapskate Bronco, you'll see we replaced these on the Bronco, and they were extremely rotten on that. What you got to be aware of when you get one, if you get one of these trucks and these are extremely rusty, what you got to be careful of is the frame rail behind it can be soft and it can be rotted out as well, which at that point, I'm going to guess that most of the truck's probably pretty clapped out. So you want to pay attention to these spring towers or shock tower, whatever you want to call it. These ones here are actually Dorman. These were about like $80 a piece. You still can get the Ford ones. They run about $125 for the driver's side, and I believe the passenger side is like $3 or $4 more. Why? I don't know. I've been using the Dorman ones, and they hold up just as good. So while you're underneath of the truck and you're looking at the spring towers, right where I'm standing would be obviously the radiator support. The radiator supports on these trucks, they fall apart bad. I don't know what it is, but for some reason 92 to 97 rust out worse than the brick nose and the bull nose. So again, you want to pay attention to radiator support. Look for it around, especially around the mounts. It's usually gone from here out. If it's gone from in forward, you want to, that's a good negotiating point, because if the rad support's rot out, it'll happen like what this truck did. On the other side, the radiator support was so rotted out that it actually dropped down and the door and the fender were pinching. And I guess the morons that owned this truck just kept opening the door up until they bent the door all up. Morons. The door doesn't open, let's just keep shoving on it. So this truck wasn't that bad of a truck. It had all the things that OBSs are known for go wrong with it. So when you're under it, after you look at that, you want to look at the oil pan. The oil pans on these trucks rot out. Especially for some odd reason, you'll find them rotted out more on a 5.0 and a 5.8 truck. Some of the 6-cylinder trucks, you'll see them rotted out on, but more likely on a 6-cylinder truck, it'll push the oil pan gasket out back by the starter, and on the driver's side of the motor, you'll notice the oil pan's pushed, the gasket will be pushed out on a 6-cylinder. For some reason, I can never put my finger on it, but you usually find that the 5.8 and the 5.0, the oil pans are usually rotted out. That's what happened to this truck. The pan was rotted out. The next thing you want to pay attention to, and I'll show you if you get a little closer, is the timing cover. Now this is a fresh motor I put together, but the timing cover will leak right back in here where my finger is. Where the timing cover meets the block, they like to leak. These are two things that if you find that problem, you better just go ahead and repair it, because what happens is if you let it go, these bolts that go through the water pump and through the timing cover, they'll get to the point where they'll rust out, and I've seen them break off in the block, and that's a whole new ball of wax. That's a whole new game after that. And you'll find that on a 5.0, and a 5.8. The timing covers leak. 460 truck, not so much. I'm not even going to get into the diesel trucks. I'm not even going to fool with them because I really honestly don't fool with many of them. And the main reason I don't fool with a 7.3 truck and OBS is because the prices are just astronomical. I see clapped out 300,000 mile OBS trucks. Guys think they're worth 5-6 grand. I'm not paying that for that. I buy these trucks. I bought this truck for $1.50, 150 bucks. But like I said, this truck needed towers, these radiators for, which I already ordered. You know, went through the motor. I'm going through this entire truck from one end to the other. I'm not restoring it. I'm just making it a nice driver. I decided to lift it. We're going to put a 6-inch lift on it, which I already bought. Put a redhead top steering box in it. You know, I'm doing a lot of upgrades to this truck, but we're going to keep it mild. But back to what the video is about, which is about what to look for on these turds. So moving back a little bit to the truck, you got a big plastic fender well that's in the way here. And you want to pay attention to these cab supports. This one here has just got a little bit of surface rust on it. Nothing major. But you got to pay attention to it right here. This corner, they rot out real bad. And they'll rot the inside of the door jamb out as well. If you get one that's starting to really get bad there, you kind of got to weigh what's it worth. If if you're giving $1,000 to $1,500 bucks and you're going to use it as beater, who cares? But if it's something you want to keep for a long time, you find rad support, you find shock towers, and you start seeing cab rust, it's just time to throw the towel in because you're talking about a restoration project. I have seen some radius arm brackets like this one here and some of these radius arms. And this is what happens to them. This is a prime example of what they do right here. Ford, I guess, powder coats this stuff, and as you can see here, it peels off. And what happens is the rust just builds up behind this stuff, and it just rots it out from the inside out. Now this truck, like I said, we're going through this truck, so this truck's getting brand new radius arms. We're not skimping on anything on this truck. So moving on in, come on around here, we'll show you. Moving on back past the truck, and again, we're just going over big things that I find with these trucks that guys constantly ask for. Now you want to open the door up. Of course you want to look for rust, on your door. You want to look at the heels of these door jambs. This one here is in good shape. This has just got a little paint peeling. But you want to look in here. These door jambs. They rot out. Again, if you got all that rust in there, that means more than likely back up under this sill plate and up in the carpet and up inside here is going to be rotten. You're looking at a cab. Again, but if you just want to patch it together, have a beater truck, that's something different. But if it's something you plan on putting some money in and keeping, then you want to just get away from that. Something else that I'm going to point out that these trucks, again, this applies just to 92 to 97 more so than the older ones, is right here, this door jamb. Right here where the parts you use to open the door, on the door, this will break out and bust like this one did here. That's why the door panel's off this truck. It pulled this out and this pulled away from the door and somebody broke the hand off. There's a, I think it's a CPT or something like that. I forget the company. They make a part, it's an upgraded part to fix that. I can't remember the name of the company. We just bought some stuff from them the other day. So moving further a little back on the truck, again, you want to look at just all your normal stuff. This has the typical above the wheel well rust. That's a common spot that'll fall out of them. There's a brace that runs down through in here, and they rot out right around here on the bed. Of course, obviously, this is a common spot. Let's walk out here to the other truck, and we'll point out what we got. And again, if you followed Bronco Cheapskate, you'll see some of the stuff we replaced on it. There was common rust problems on Bronco Cheapskate over here, which we still haven't got back to, but we will. Moving on to the back of the truck, another big common spot are these rear spring mounts and the front spring mounts. They will both rot out as well, more so these than any. You want to pay good attention to these and see how rusty and crusty they are. Then also another common spot that I see is the actual shock mounts themselves. where the shock mounts to the frame, it's on here by 3 rivets. I've seen them where they'll rust out the frame here. At that point, you know, if you've got all of that rust going on, you got a parts truck. You don't have a driver, you got a parts truck. Because more than likely the rest of the frame is scaly. This truck's actually really good. This was a fire truck. But again, I'm just pointing out the big key things that I find with these trucks that I tell guys to look for. If you all that stuff's in pretty good shape, then you got a good solid foundation to build something, or a driver. Prime example is this truck right here. This is a 92, but this was a fire truck. Had some kind of fire apparatus on the back, which we don't know. It was gone when we bought it. But because this truck spent probably 90% of its life inside, this thing, as you can see, is not crusty. The rails aren't even, the rails still got paint on them. So this is a nice foundation. This is our Project 460 truck that we're going to shorten the frame and put a flare side bed on and lower. We will have upcoming videos on that. So I hope that helps some of you guys. I know there's a lot more stuff. I just went over the big stuff. Because for me as a buyer, because I buy a lot of these things, I believe I think there's 10 of these things here, or close to it. That's what I look for. So when I find all those things, you know, guy wants $2,500 for a truck, and I find rad support, spring towers, shackles, we ain't at $2,500 no more. We're about $1,000 truck, if that. That's only if the motor's good, trans is good, you know, and interior pieces are good. I see door panels broken up, and guys don't really think about this stuff. When you're putting one of these trucks back together, that stuff adds up quick. Because today, I was just at a junkyard last weekend. There's 2 of these trucks in there, and they are very picked over. These things ain't in a junkyard like they were 10 years ago. I mean, we're talking, you know, most of these trucks are 92s, 3s, 4s, and 5s. So we're climbing up there in the age numbers. So I hope it helps some of you guys out with some of these questions and what to look for on these old trucks, these OBSs. I'll talk to you a little bit later, maybe a day or so. See you.